the last current event we have here is something that is still very much developing. We have some drums of war going on in the Western Hemisphere, which is just, it's a really weird time we're living in, guys. We are seeing the decimation of American hegemony right now, and I think we're going to see a lot of these smaller border wars between countries we've never thought about before. I think these are going to become way more prominent as America kind of recedes from the world stage militarily. I think these are going to be popping up a lot.
Okay.
So Venezuela is looking to take over 2/3 of the neighboring country of Guyana. It's so interesting because they're not just going to invade it. They took it to a vote. They went to the people of Venezuela and they said, "Hey, do you want our government to pursue a policy of annexing the Essequibo region of Guyana?" And 95% of people apparently voted yes. They want the government to move towards the direction of annexing the Essequibo region of Guyana.
That's so insane.
I know.
So insane.
So this Essequibo region covers 2/3 of Guyana. It is densely covered in forest. It's actually fairly sparsely populated, but there are a lot of indigenous groups in Guyana. Guyana is actually interesting because it is one of the only South American nations that has almost zero white people. It is almost exclusively descendants of like mixed ethnicities between Spanish and natives and natives themselves. They are the most, native population.
Interesting.
Yeah, you're looking at it right now. You see this line?
Yeah.
Everything to the west is the Essequibo.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now, why is Venezuela doing this? Well, Venezuela has actually been looking to do this for a very, 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 very long time. Venezuela's desire to annex this portion of the country dates back all the way to colonialism. What a shock, right? Guyana was originally a Dutch colony. It later became a British colony. Now, Britain ruled this colony for about 200 years before it finally gained its independence in 1966, where Guyana became its own independent republic in 1970. Well, right after gaining their independence, Venezuela comes out the door. They're like, hey, they used the fact that when Venezuela was a Spanish colony, they had the Essequibo region in their borders. So they're saying that the British never had the right to take the Essequibo region and put it into their colony of Guyana, let alone give it to a new country, Guyana, to now be its own independent republic. It belongs to Venezuela. Well, this picked up a lot of fervor in 2015 when massive amounts of oil were found off the coast of the Essequibo region of Guyana. ExxonMobil discovered 11 billion barrels of oil there, which is a very, very insane amount of oil. Oil already generates $1 billion in revenues annually for the Guyana government, but by 2040, it is expected to produce $7.5 billion. And so Guyana is currently one of the most impoverished countries in the world. It is covered by rainforest, only has about 800,000 people, but it will become the 4th largest offshore oil producer in the world.
Wow.
By forecasts. Another interesting fact about the population of Guyana, they actually have the largest Latin American ethnic group in the United States by population.
Really?
40% of people who identify as Guyanese are in America.
Wow.
Are in the United States.
Okay.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of there's actually like a fairly substantial voting block in the United States of these people who are very, very loyal and respect America. So Venezuela voted 95% to take over, to annex the territory. This doesn't necessarily mean they voted to invade, right? That's what Maduro was saying. It's not a vote for invasion. But the Guyana government is not just going to let them take 2/3 of their country.
No.
So I don't imagine this is going to be a peaceful process. Brazil is actually moving military resources near the border of Guyana
In preparation.
to defend Guyana against Venezuela.
Okay.
Now, which is interesting because this is what's all messed up in my head here. Venezuela is supposed to be a socialist country. Brazil is currently ruled by the Socialist Party, and then Guyana is currently ruled by a Socialist Party. What are we all fighting about? What are we doing here?
Yeah.
Why are we all fighting? What's happening?
It's still who gets the oil.
It's still all about who gets the oil. American leftists get so mad when the United States invade Iraq for oil. And it's contentious whether or not the United States actually did invade for oil. Okay. But now Venezuela is literally invading for oil. Why do I not see any anger about this? You know, what's going on here? Like, why? I feel like everyone's like kind of okay with this.
Really?
That's how I feel. I haven't seen any pushback against Venezuela at all.
Well, I'm less plugged into Twitter than you, so I wouldn't know.
No, I haven't seen any pushback at all. I haven't really heard anybody talk about it except like, oh, it's happening. I haven't heard anybody make a value judgment.
Yeah.
Right? I'm making a value judgment. This is wrong. This is bad. We have international rules and international order for a reason. The United Nations has already determined in the 70s and 80s that this place belongs to Guyana. It's already settled, okay? Venezuela cannot just come in here and forcibly dictate this to this country and take its natural resources from them.
No. This is the exact same reason that it was a problem that Russia invaded Ukraine.
Exactly. So, like I said, Guyana is ruled by a democratic socialist government, which actually has Marxist-Leninist factions inside of this government. So it's not like it's a right-wing, neoliberal United States puppet. I think the party, the People's Progressive Party, used to be, like, I think almost classified as a terrorist organization by the United States or something like that. Like, it was very, like, the United States was hostile to this organization, and it was hostile to the United States.
Oh.
But now, they're like, I don't want to say they're becoming partners, but they're not killing each other. They're not angry at each other.
The U.S. and Guyana?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Are they aligning?
Aligning isn't the right word, but but there's aligning isn't the right word.
They're becoming slightly friendlier.
But they are, because now Exxon has business interests in Guyana.
Okay.
So now there's economic ties between the two countries.
I see.
Right? So now there is some type of American interest here. So
okay. Now,
Guyana does get some benefit off of these private companies coming in and drilling their oil. Guyana receives 12.5% of all revenue generated from the oil that is produced and also gets a 2% royalty. Now, this will make the country rich in the long term, but as of right now, the people of Guyana are getting kind of screwed because the ExxonMobil do not, as part of the deal, do not have to pay taxes on their profits in Guyana, which means that they're just raking in the big bucks.
Yeah, and part of their deal is that the government has to front the money for their exploration and construction of infrastructure. So this is very much something that's going to help down the line, but so far has cost the government a lot more than they've been able to reap.
Exactly. And the people of Guyana are angry about this. Okay. They want to renegotiate the treaty. They think it was negotiated in bad faith. Mm-hmm. They think they were screwed over, and they were right. They were right. They were screwed over. And I do want them to renegotiate this. But just because they want to renegotiate these oil permitting rights does not mean that Venezuela should go in and invade it and then renegotiate it all for them. That's not how this should work.
No. I mean, do you think they're right? I mean, they're getting screwed right now, but yeah, this is how investment works a lot of the time.
Yes, I mean, look, this is a long-term game. We'll see what happens in 5 years, right?
Yeah.
We know that this is going to be the fourth largest oil producer in the world. That's insane.
It's assumed. It's projected.
It's assumed that they're not invaded by Venezuela.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's the funny thing about saying we'll see where this goes in 5 years.
Maybe it won't go anywhere in 5 years. Because all these companies are like, wait a second, we're going to get invaded and then nationalized? Get me the hell out of here.
Yeah.
But listen, there are God, it's so difficult because I so much deeply believe that oil companies should be extremely responsible to the government of the nation in which they're operating. Like in regards to how much of the profit or revenue they're able to keep from the oil production, how and where they're able to drill and when they're able to drill, what they're used to drill, the amount of profits they're able to make off selling their oil. I think all that has to be regulated because of how bad oil is for the world, right? Okay. But how much does that do to making the oil companies leave the nation and then not come back and find a dirtier place to do oil production? You know?
Yeah.
I mean, think about it in the United States, we're going to cap the amount of methane that could be leaked out, right? Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because this is kind of a completely different part of the equation. Like when a company considers going somewhere to drill for new oil, this is one of the assumptions that they just rest on, right? They don't consider, what if this country gets invaded,
right,
by a socialist country that's going to nationalize us?
Yeah.
So I feel like there are different things, like the consideration as to whether a foreign country will come in and nationalize. What if it was so if Guyana was nationalizing the Exxon portion, you would be down with it.
I think so.
Okay.
I think I'd be. I mean, yeah. No. I wouldn't think so. I would be down with it.
Okay.
If yeah, I would be down with it. Period.
Sure.
If like Guyana voted and was like, I want to, and it was like UN regulated election, like everything was clean. Like I actually want to join Venezuela and nationalize all these oil fields.
Okay.
I'd be like, yeah, sure, go ahead.
Okay.
I wouldn't have a problem with that because I don't have a fundamental disagreement with, nationalizing your natural resources for the specific benefit of the people whose natural resources it is. I have no issue with that.
Okay.
But I also like the way Guyana's doing it, where they're splitting the profits 50-50. I think that's a good step. Like if I had, like, honestly, I think that might actually be better for the country long term, because if they nationalized it, the companies probably wouldn't go there.
Yes.
Right? But if they split the profits 50-50 or whatever, right now they're doing 12.5%, that's totally unacceptable. That got to be renegotiated. But like if you're going to get a portion of the profits and it's a reasonable portion, the people are happy with it, I'm not really against it at that point.
Okay.
I think I just need to see that these companies give to the government in a way that reflects the people's desire to profit off of their own resources. So,
Okay.
yeah, I think that's where the real concern is.
That makes sense to me.
If
Sure.
they want to go through with nationalizing it, I'm not going to come out and heavy against it.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's their land. So
Exactly. The problem isn't whether oil is private or public. The problem is whether a country invades another country.
that's the issue here. That's the issue. Can a country invade another country? The answer is no. End of story.
Yeah, I agree.
And this also comes off the back of the Biden administration weakening sanctions against Venezuela. And so, listen, as an American socialist, I want Venezuela to have less sanctions on them. I want them to be roped into the American economy. I want them to be able to sell their oil to us. I want all that. I want all that stuff. But when you come out here and you start sounding like you're threatening to invade another country, I don't want to do business with you. I want to choke your economy.
Interesting.
If 95% of your country wants to invade another country, why would I weaken sanctions against you? Why would I allow you to economically prosper if you're going to be doing this type of stuff?
Yeah. Well, I also only want sanctions to be weakened against Venezuela if they shift more democratic,
Right.
rather than socialist dictatorship.
Well, socialist, yeah, obviously, but like that's what's that they're supposed to have free and fair elections,
Correct.
in the coming months here,
Yeah.
and we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah. But I just want to note, like, that's a big part of why the sanctions were on in the first place. It's not just like we saw them and it was like, oh, they're socialist, so we need to clamp down on them. There's a democratic element to it.
No, yeah, there is a democratic ideological element too, on top of the nationalization of the oil companies.
Yes. Yes.